Oh, there you are, YouTube. Do subscribe if you're interested. So, my wife and I today watched Knock at the Cabin. We had a chance to see that while the kids were hanging out at their grandparents' house, and it was very exciting to watch. We are big Shyamalan fans, and I, I as I was watching it, I was excited because I feel like a lot of his movies lately have sort of not reached the peak of his early work, which I absolutely love. Some of my favorite films come from that period. Um, but this one, as I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is good. This is like, when you think of like his like middle of the road movies, this one is like on top. I feel like, or near there. It's reaching a place where you almost want to put it in his greatest hits. I don't know if it quite reaches that because I almost think in order for that to happen, he needs to be partnered with James Newton Howard, because I feel like as I was watching this one, there's a moment near the end, a very emotional moment, and I was like, man, if James Newton Howard had done the score for this, I would be weeping right now. Instead, my eyes were watering, but had he done the score, I would have been weeping. And I think the movie wouldn't have taken on a tone as strong in the horror genre. It would have felt a little bit more poetic, and that's what I love about his earlier films, is how they feel like you're watching poetry. At least I don't know. That's kind of how I feel anyway. But this movie was great, and the standout was definitely Bautista. Dave Bautista he's gotta be easily, by far, miles ahead, the greatest wrestler turned actor. Um, I mean, he's phenomenal in it. He's not just an actor. I mean, this guy's a thespian. He is so good in it. And we learn different things about these different characters. I'm not going to give you like the plot or anything. I'm just going to talk about the movie as if you've seen it, or if you've already read the plot. But the way he approaches his character and his character's, I guess, identity, it I feel like everything is so nuanced and perfect. Like every scene, I feel like he researched for the type of person he is supposed to be. It all felt very well researched, but not overacted. It all felt extremely natural, and every decision he made just was like, yeah, that is how that would happen. And maybe because that that road from wrestling to acting hasn't always been successful, or it's just done in sort of like an action way, that it's a little bit like more noticeable with Batista, because it's just like, wow, this guy's a really good actor. He's just phenomenal in it. I thought he was so good. And when you compare this movie to Shyamalan's previous film, Old, which I think has some of the worst acting that he's ever put on screen, not Batista, but Shyamalan, like when you look at everything, like all the people who are acting in the movie, I feel like it's pretty low level when you compare it to all of his other movies. I think that one, Old, might be the worst. Not worst movie, but worst acted. This one is just so good. The acting level is great from everybody, I feel. Rupert Grint as well, Ron Weasley, he's good. There are some actors that I don't know that all perform very well. Kristoff from Frozen, he is fantastic. I was just very impressed with the acting in this, especially when you compare it to Old. The acting in that one just is not very strong. This movie, so I I went into the movie pretty relaxed, well rested, but as it was going, I felt very tense. And I was like, this is supposed to be kind of like a nice casual day, but I feel extremely tense right now. And I don't know, it was just like it's very suspenseful. And from what I hear, the book is that way too. My father-in-law read the book, and he hasn't seen the movie yet, but he's very excited to. And from what I hear, this movie does take some liberties when compared to the book. It's like the ending is a little different. So I didn't tell my father-in-law what happens in the end of the movie, but after I watched the movie, I asked him how the book ends, and it does seem pretty different, because I know I'm not going to read the book. Um, Also, I know I'm hopping around everywhere, but I wanted to also talk about, you know, how M. Night Shyamalan, he will put himself in his movies as cameos and sometimes bigger roles as well. This one's kind of more cameo, very like Alfred Hitchcock style. And I think that's, you know, who he's tipping his hat to. But even like Shyamalan's part in this could have been very wink at the camera. Do you? That's the wink. Wink at the camera, silly, and it like almost feels like it should be. Like the part that he plays in it is a little bit like, oh, this is silly, but he plays it so well, so perfectly, so exact to the type of person he's playing that it doesn't come off as silly. It comes off as genuine and sincere. And I feel like that's what Shyamalan's so good at, is his sincerity. And I don't know. I think that might be why he has trouble making movies nowadays, because we're a cynical society much more than we were in his early days. But that is why his movies are, I guess, so poetic, I think, and very like, positive in a way, because he allows viewers to feel, or he's giving them a place, a space to feel. And if you are willing to give yourself up to the movie, you can do that. But we've, you know, all build up walls and stuff around us. So I think you could easily like look at his movies and laugh a little bit if that's, you know, kind of what you've done. And I don't know. I just like that he leaves that spot open in his movies for them to be very emotional. And this one's that way as well, even though it is, you know, very much like a scary home invasion movie. And I didn't know where this movie was going. I had theories in my head, but I kept second guessing all of my theories, so I never had anything solid and then was correct at the end or anything like that. And I like where everything went, even though it's very tragic and sad, and I could see you know, people being angry, and but I mean it's not a clean ending, by any means, but it's a good one, I think. And from what I hear from the book, I think I would prefer this movie over the book, or yeah, the movie ending over the book anyway. I'll never know because I know I'm not going to read it. But I don't know. I thought this was good. Knock at the Cabin is very good, but I think really if it had a different score by James Newton Howard, I think this could be up up there with the other stuff that I like of his. But I don't see this one having high rewatchability, where his early work all has high rewatchability for me. This one though, it's just maybe a little too grim. Um, Even though there are aspects of hope to the movie, it's still extremely grim. The road throughout this film is a grim one. So that, I think, would make it difficult to be high on the rewatchability list. But again, very. I, I, I like that it has. I don't know. Should I keep talking about it? Yeah, I'm not at 10 minutes yet. I like in Shyamalan's movies that he identifies the character types in his movies. You know, like when you watch a Western and you see the black hat and the white hat, that's like the signal of who's who and what their role is in the movie. This movie, the roles are subtle or obvious, but I don't know. Maybe they're not always obvious, but you as a viewer are sort of trying to figure out what's the role of this person, this cast. What is that person doing? What is that person doing? What is their purpose? And that's actually kind of what his movies are all about. Everything has a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. And I like that in his movies when we discover the purpose. And usually he tells you what the purpose is. And for some reason I'm okay with that. You know, I think we want ambiguity in movies so we can think a little more on them, but sometimes maybe it goes over your head, or it, I don't know. I just like how blunt it is when it comes to him describing purposes. I don't know why, but I like that in his movies when all that connects and he gives you the connection. It's all like, oh yeah, that's great. So that happens in this movie, and that's a common thread in many of his films, many of my favorite films of his anyway. Everything has a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. And I don't know. I think it's just a fun message. Good-hearted message. I think Shyamalan has a good heart. Anyway, yeah, what did you think of the movie? I'd love to know. I'm just rambling here. I didn't take any notes or anything. I probably said some stuff wrong or incorrectly, or I'm totally incorrect with the movie. So I don't know. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Was it good? Where does it go on your list? I'm curious to know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and perhaps I'll see you tomorrow for more Pure Hangout.